This can't just be their Everest. Climb it and that's it, we're done. It's just got to be a starting point to kick on for the future. They have sent a massive statement out to the ICC today.
I remember it very clearly. It was just, I don't really know what I was thinking. It was just a total uproar. Everyone in the crowd was almost stunned. I mean, it looked like Scotland might win all the way through at different points. It looked like England would win. But until it actually happened, you really, on the back of your mind, you're thinking, oh, England are going to win. So it was just massive relief and then just kind of ecstasy when it happened, and just a really exciting day for anyone involved in Cricket Scotland.
We didn't just beat England that day, we actually beat England, which was the top ODI one-day international team in the world at that time. The Scots always like beating the English, we know that, but actually for me what was more important than beating English was beating the #1 team in the world, and we beat them at their own game.
Yeah, and can we get the mascots one on either side? Gentlemen, these are today's mascots.
How are you doing?
I'm Jamie.
Jamie, I'm Kyle. Is that Kyle? You alright?
Jamie? Yeah. And your name is? Alisa. Alisa. Is that with an R then?
One on each side?
Yes, one on each side.
I'm going to come around this side.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, are you happy, or do you want to be closer in?
Is that all right?
No, do you want to do the toss first?
Yeah, go and do that then.
Okay, toss. Okay.
Just before we do, just
Closer in, Arisa. Head in the shield.
nice clear
Yeah,
call.
that's fine. No. Yeah, that's fine. When you're ready.
Tail call. It is ahead. Scotland have won the toss.
We'll have it back. Okay.
Scotland gained associate membership of International Cricket Council or ICC, the global governing body of cricket, in 1994. Since then, they have participated in 1999, 2007 and 2015 One-Day International World Cups and 2007, 2009 and 2016 T20 World Cups for men. However, their first victory in a global event came against Hong Kong in the 2016 T20 World Cup.
The 2016 World T20 was a real turning point, and I think when we look back and go to write the history of Scottish cricket, it will be seen as the pivotal moment in the history of the national team. If you remember that tournament, it was in the first round of the competition, which is effectively a qualifying round for the main part of the tournament. Scotland played 3 matches. In their final match, beats Hong Kong for the first ever win at a global tournament, which was a monkey off the back in some ways, having had near misses before the 2015 World Cup against Afghanistan, for example, coming to mind immediately. But against Zimbabwe and against Afghanistan in that same qualifying round, were in winning positions but let them slip. And the team came away with a sense of disappointment but determination to put that right. It was a real sense of culture of culture change, that scoring 30 wasn't enough anymore, that about having individual players within the team prepared to put their hands up and to get over the line, to deliver that match-winning performance.
In the game against England, Scotland's Callum McLeod scored an unbeaten century, and captain Kyle Kitzer and George Munsey chipped in with handy half-centuries to post a mammoth total of 371 for the loss of 5 wickets in 50 overs against top-class English bowling lineup that featured Liam Plunkett and Adil Rashid. In recognition for an inspiring performance, Callum McLeod was awarded ICC's Associate Cricketer of the Year in 2018. The men's team received Inspirational Performance of the Year award at the Sports Scotland Scottish Sports Awards.
delighted to announce that the winner of the inspirational performance this year goes to Scotland's cricket team.
Into that game with the belief in our ability and what we can do, but then finally getting across the line and put it into place has just taken it to another level.
The Scotland team today is a very, very different beast to the team that you're mentioning in the previous World Cups.
This is a more skillful team than the team I played in. But I do think that part of that was there was an internal reflection from the squad and the management about where they wanted to go after the World Cup in 2015. And there was a strong saying, well, we could stay the same and do the same things, and we could go on the same path. Or we can try things a little bit different. We can be more aggressive. We might lose a little bit initially, but once we get used to that and we become more flamboyant and we enjoy being more flamboyant and we want to take on the best and we want to play this brand of cricket, then long term I think we'll get more success.
We wanted to play with a freedom, we wanted to play with an aggressive nature, we wanted to play on the front foot. That's the way world cricket's going. And we, within our skill sets and with our abilities, with the players we have in the squad, our transformation to playing that way and allowing ourselves to have that freedom is ultimately what won us that game on the day. And all that really has done is compounded that we're on the right journey.
But just to really not be happy with being plucky Scots and, you know, brave heart spirit and all that kind of nonsense, the sort of the cliche that you will often still see around things like the football team, for example, when they have a near miss or whatever, or, you know, unlucky brave hearts once again. Well, that's not good enough anymore. You know, how are we going to kind of cut this at international level? But for me, it was the Desert T20 at the start of 2017, which was a great wee tournament out in the UAE, where one game in particular, I mean, Scotland won their group unbeaten, and there was a match against the Netherlands. The Netherlands, I remember, they kind of had Scotland kind of under the cosh on a couple of occasions, both with the bat and with the ball. They were chasing in the end, looked like they were in a winning position, but Scotland, I think, took a couple of wickets in the last over, if I remember rightly, got over the line, beat them. That was, you know, a huge, huge result, because it was a game that not so long before Scotland would have, you could see, would have been quite capable of caving and not getting over the line there. And that was really, for me, was the first real sign of this culture change.
I think what the Scottish team did just over a year ago against England in the victory that they had at the Grange on that day, it wasn't so much the victory that was so celebrated. I think it was that exact brand of cricket that you're talking about. You know, being able to score 380 runs and then limiting England to 8 runs short was a fantastic game of cricket, and almost, you know, beating them at their own game.
The cultural change has been quite evident across all performance levels, including junior cricket. The message has been consistent to play positive brand of cricket.
There's total clarity down all the age groups on the pathway to the senior team, and if you want to play for the senior team, without changing someone's game too much, because obviously all the players have talent, but at the same time they need to understand that the team are going to play in a certain way, and if you want to be part of that journey, you need to buy into that. So there's total clarity, like I said, all the way through the age groups, and all the players understand that we want to play aggressive cricket and attractive cricket, and that kind of starts now if you want to do it later on for the senior team.
When the under-19 men's team left for Netherlands to play for the under-19 World Cup qualifiers this July, George Munsey from the senior team left a V-note for the young boys. He tweeted, "All the very best to Cricket Scotland 19s in the ICC World Cup qualifiers. Play with freedom and, most importantly, enjoy." The team lived up to everyone's expectations by remaining unbeaten in the tournament and subsequently qualifying for the global event to be held in South Africa in 2020. The success of the team is a fitting testament to a newly engineered pathway program for young players both men and women, Cricket Scotland has in place.
What we've kind of done is add in a few more age brackets. So we've split the men's into 4 age brackets. Partly because of my philosophy about keeping it as wide as possible for as long as possible. So it used to be the structure was under 15s, under 18s and senior men. But what we were finding was, if you imagine a young player at the age of 19 who's not then getting into a senior regional team, that person is then potentially losing 2 or 3 years of development, because they're not then getting the support at the age of 19, 20, etc. To continue to develop their cricket. Also what we did was we created the Performance Academy system. Before then there was a development squad programme, but we feel on review that is a real target area for our men and women, boys and girls. That's where we can make the big development and key developments, because the key thing, and I think from my perspective you see where Ireland maybe are struggling a little bit, is if you have a national team of 15 players, strong players, at some point they will tail off, they will leave, they will finish. You need to make sure that the people coming into the system after that are not just good cricketers, but are able to perform at that level.
The challenge, however, is to keep supplying players into the system and create a large talent pool enough for cricket to thrive and prosper in every corner of the country. A small nation means smaller population. One may believe climbing up Ben Nevis is easier than finding cricket talents here. There have been reports from the northeast that clubs are struggling due to lack of players.
I might contradict you slightly. Certainly for the women, there are not all that many players, and tremendous efforts have been done with a small pool of players. There is a lot of male players in Scotland playing at different levels. Not all aspire to be part of the professional setup in the Scotland team, but there are a number there. If you compare it with Sri Lanka, India, it's tiny, but it's still a large number of players do compete in that sport. And if you compare it with some of the comparators we would like to compare with, for instance, the Netherlands or Ireland, our numbers stack up very well.
We now have a regional structure which has the 3 regions, Cali, the West and the East, each with age group representative sides beneath the top ones. So you can have young players at or leaving school or at or leaving university still playing in representative cricket, and I think that's a huge opportunity. It's a massive change from where it was 3 years ago.
It started really with, like I said, at West of Scotland, just under 10s, under 11s, under 13s, and then getting picked for the regional team when I was, I think, 12, and then a couple of seasons playing in that, and then I managed to make my debut for Scotland under 15s in 2015, I think it was. And from then it's just been a sort of a progression through the age groups to 3 years of under 15s and then a few seasons of under 17s and now under 19s. So just sort of improving every year and going through with the same group of guys through the age groups in the Scotland setup, which has kind of led me to where I am now.
Efficient management of talent pool, especially at all ages, with fewer numbers, is key to developing competitive professionals. Gordon Drummond devised a visionary plan to keep all the available players in the mix and let them play as long as possible.
And what we try and do, my philosophy is trying to keep it. You'll see a lot of pyramids, particularly in India, because of the mass amount of players playing. There's a natural competition moving forward, yeah? So if you're not good enough, you just won't make it. It's just a natural competition. Slightly different in Scotland due to numbers. We don't have the playing mass to create that natural competition pyramid. So what we try and do is keep the pyramid a little bit wider for longer, to allow players to develop a little bit later. Because we know that our young players in Scotland just develop, their development years are a little bit later. You know, a cricketer in India at the age of 17 has probably played twice as much cricket as a young 17-year-old in Scotland. So we need to make sure that we keep them in the system as long as possible.
The plans seem to have worked out in favour of young players, providing them with more opportunities to play cricket at different age levels and stay longer in the circuit. As they say, sometimes less is more.
Obviously we don't have as large population as other countries, and cricket's not as major sport as other sports, so that I suppose my age is not as big an issue as it could have been, because of the amount of boys playing cricket. There's always going to be opportunity for younger guys. They're not getting squeezed out by just sheer volume of other players. So maybe that lack of massive choice of boys kind of helped me in that my age didn't matter as much, I guess, sort of looking back at it, because there was space for me, if that makes sense.
The challenges of women's cricket are no different in establishing a pathway program to converting girls who played games like rounders from skeptics to believers. Private schools apparently had higher cricket participation than state schools, but that notion could prove to be wrong.
You know, there are only so many good training opportunities for girls, and in some cases girls have had to travel, you know, from quite far away to join training camps and things like that. And I think that's also been a financial issue for some of them, and just the opportunities, finding the pathways. But that's something that Cricket Scotland's really working towards.
It's interesting that you say that in private schools, but not many private schools were doing cricket for girls. And it's only over the last few years that we've seen them make the shift from rounders to cricket. The pathway in rounders is not as extensive as in cricket, and that's also something that we've introduced in the last few years, is to make sure that we have a regional program for girls, so girls that want to progress in the sport, that want to play for their region and maybe eventually for their country. Up until a few years ago, that wasn't in place either, so that's another thing we've done.
Women's cricket in Scotland dates back to 1932, when the national team played England at New Road, Worcester. But regular competition began in 2000. After a successful campaign at T20 World Qualifiers Europe this year, the Wildcats, as they are known in the international circuit, are currently preparing for the T20 World Cup qualifiers to participate in the 2020 World Cup to be held in Australia. Despite the success of both men and women's teams, cricket falls far behind football, rugby, golf, hockey or tennis in terms of participation and popularity among the locals. It was the success of Scotland against England in 2018 gave them the much needed public attention.
The world out there sat up and took notice of how good Scottish cricket was. But it wasn't just the cricketing world that did that. I think within Scotland, a lot of people who'd previously seen cricket as perhaps one of those lesser, more esoteric types of games, suddenly realised that we were as good at cricket in the world as we are at football or rugby, and therefore cricket deserves more profile and support than it previously had. So, we think it's a game changer. Our responsibility is to really make it into that game changer.
The history of cricket in Scotland is rich and deep-rooted, and the legacy unparalleled. It dates back to late 18th century.
Cricket started in the south-east of England, way back 16th century. In the late 18th century, it developed in Scotland. Our first game we know about is in 1785. And it was conducted by the nobility. We know about it because there was a painting done at the time. And the Caledonian Mercury, which was the upmarket paper of the time, carried the scorecard. So that shows it was very much a game played by the nobility at that time. The game then further developed in the borders by mill workers coming up from Yorkshire and Lancashire and taking up working men's roles in the borders, and they formed clubs in the borders. They started in the early part of the 1800s. In fact, the earliest cricket club we know about is Kelso in 1826. It's the earliest minute book we've got, and that would be an example of mill workers.
In 1849, an All England 11 visited Scotland for the first time to play in Edinburgh against Kelso. There was an upsurge in club formation following the visit at that time. The later part of Victorian era witnessed the growth of cricket's profile in Scotland. In 1878, the first ever Australian touring team visited west of Scotland. In 1882, they clinched victory against Australia in a one-day and played their first ever match against Ireland in 1888.
I think Scotland's had a strange relationship with cricket. If you stop someone in the street and talk about Scottish cricket, the reaction you're often likely to get is, what, we play cricket in Scotland? It's a question that I think that virtually everybody involved in Scottish cricket, whether a player, a writer, an administrator, has come across countless times. When the reality is that, yes, not only did we play cricket in Scotland, we have done since 1785 was the first recorded match played in Scotland, so it had obviously been played before then. And there's a history there connected with some of the most famous names to have ever played the game. A history that's as rich as that of any other country in the cricketing world, really.
It was a prominent part of areas that were interested in cricket. There was a lot of villages, for instance, had their cricket team, and those villages that played cricket, absolutely it was a prominent part. The young males of that village would be part of the cricket club. They would often get up early, practice before they went to work, do their day's work, and then come back and play a scratch game at night. A good friend of mine, his partner always recalls that she was brought down here every Sunday during the 1970s to watch cricket, because there was cricket games on. Her father was playing in the local team that was playing on the ground, so that was a family all had to come down here. She had to play at the edge of the boundary. Other families would not be into cricket, yes.
Thousands of fans thronged the grounds to watch iconic players playing their favorite game. Crowd riots, as we see today among football fans, were no exception to cricket fans in those days.
And if we're talking about the popularity of the game, the traditional popularity of the game, we're talking about thousands of people who used to watch cricket matches in Scotland. I think back in the kind of 1930s, 20s, 30s, that kind of thing, you know, four-figure crowds or more were turning up to watch games at the North Inch in Perth, for example. 10,000 people were at Manorfield to watch Donald Bradman's last innings in 1948 on British soil. You've got these kind of huge numbers of people that were following cricket as spectators, not just as players. So Richard Young, as well, in As the Willow Vanishes, talks about a match that was played on Glasgow Green back in the early 1930s, if I remember rightly, between two cricket clubs, Thistle and Albion. Which there was a dispute on the field, an umpiring decision, which started a fight amongst the players, which spread to a riot amongst the spectators that the police had to come and kind of break up. So, you know, there was a real passion around the game there.
Given the history and culture of cricket here, it's intriguing how cricket lost its profile it once owned. 17,000 people still play cricket at over 130 clubs across Scotland, most of which long established since 18th century. There is no definite answer, but a culmination of several factors could have possibly drawn people away from cricket.
My opinion on that is there's a number of underlying factors. I don't think it's any one major part, but I'm probably going to guess the weather's a big part of that. So if you look at Glasgow, for example, which is where I'm from. And I'm trying not to smile or laugh too much because it's a running joke. But the weather, you just don't know what you're going to get. So like today it was slightly milder this morning. Then we had a torrential downpour. It was grey. Now the blue skies have come out and there's a little bit of sunshine. You need dry weather to play cricket. It's as simple as that.
In 1999, Wayne Martin's World Cup debut by saving the Middlesbrough Scout as Ricky Ponting finished the tournament best right.
On 18th May 2019, the Grange Stadium was adjudged a sell-out. Scotland was scheduled to take on Sri Lanka. Much to the dismay of cricket fans, the match had to be abandoned without a ball bowled due to rain. On the week before, another match against Afghanistan was also called off due to inclement weather.
But you have to live with it. You know, if you grew up in Scotland, that is what we have to accept, regardless whether it's cricket, any sport. That's the problem with cricket, because, as we say, it has to be played outside, and there is nothing nicer. I've been to cricket matches in Aberdeen, Dundee, Edinburgh. My actual home overlooks Royal High School, where cricket is played every Saturday. On a day, it's great, but we can't change that. It's a frustration that you could argue that we have to deal with.
The lack of public facilities has not helped the cause either, says Amar.
If you look at how many public football pitches there are in Glasgow compared to cricket pitches, the figure is, you know, it's just dramatically nonsensical. It really is. So I know an area of Glasgow quite well. I've done a little bit of research. I've conducted a mapping exercise of their facilities, and they have 52 pitches within I think it's a 6 or 7 mile radius, and they have no public cricket pitch or artificial. Sorry, there's one artificial 22-yard strip versus 52 football pitches.
With Scotland, there is something more going on there, and I think that over the years, cricket has gained itself a tag of elitism. It's suffered, if that's the right word, from its association as an English sport. I think that there is a certain element in the Scottish psyche that kind of will, in some that is, of course, certainly not in all, that kind of will push against something that is seen as some sort of colonial imposition or something from England.
There's that kind of mental block that this is only played by the upper classes, the elite, and then, you know, there's a little bit of kind of I don't know if it's nationalism, but then it's this, oh, it's an English sport and we don't want to play an English sport.
It's very curious that rugby, I mean, you can't get more English public school than a sport that's named after one of them. You know, but rugby is seen as a Scottish sport, and it could. So now we could be talking about, you know, what's been the influence of success at international level. That rugby is seen as a Scottish game, albeit kind of one that was very much centred around the borders to begin with, at least. It's spread a little bit more now. But the success of the Scotland team, the fact that it was competing with and you know, sometimes beating the likes of England and so on at international level, kind of pushed that more into the front of the mind.
There may be inexplicable adverse factors affecting cricket in Scotland. But if at all everyone is sure of one thing that's going to put Scottish cricket in the limelight, it is consistent and successful performance at international level. Victory against England was just the beginning. Success, however, doesn't happen overnight. That's only the tip of the iceberg. The base originates from acceptance of the sport and developing a culture at grassroots level where everyone, irrespective of age and gender, anyone who had never played the game before or would like to make a comeback, has the opportunity to start playing all year round.
The key to it for me is to make sure that we have entry-level programs at a number of stages. So In this country at the moment, unless you've played cricket in school, and it's only a limited number of schools, or your family are involved with cricket, it's quite tricky to get into cricket. How would you know about it?
And I know for a lot of the state schools that they don't play cricket anymore. So that's the bread and butter of participation in sport for me.
In partnership with ScotRail, Cricket Scotland designed a cricket program to meet the requirements of curriculum for excellence, such as striking, fielding, hand-eye coordination in primary schools. The core philosophy of the program is based on delivering the PE hours in a fun manner to encourage kids to choose cricket as their #1 choice of sport.
Primarily for children at school level getting involved, it has to be fun. It has to be how can we make the game short, easy to understand, high activity, and the most important one is it's fun.
Fun has been at the heart of every cricket program delivered to children and even women. A sport traditionally known to have been played by old men in whites over many days is slowly but surely changing its appeal in the minds of the public by introduction of new and innovative programs and formats.
So we have a program called All Stars, and this is designed for 5 to 8-year-olds. The children, they receive a pack, so they've got their own bat, they've got their own ball, which is great because they need to have the equipment as well. So that's very good at a young age. They start focusing on their hand-eye coordination. So that's one format, and it's not, I'll be honest with you, it's not really cricket. It's lots of fun games, kind of game-based learning going on with other children, interacting with each other. But what we do is we throw in a cricket bat and a cricket ball, and we kind of use the games using the bat and ball as well. So with these children, you won't set up a T20 match, for example. You most definitely wouldn't. And it's organised chaos, so it's a bit crazy and everyone's shouting and we're all having fun, and the children go away really pumped up at the end of that 1 hour.
A program that specifically targets children from deprived communities is drawing interest for the game from those quarters where cricket would have been just another expensive sport to play, is wickets.
My job role is to develop clubs in Springburn, Pollock Shields and Govan Hill, because these three were the most deprived areas where kids come from different backgrounds, different nationalities, different race, and parents don't work. In some kids, in some houses there are fights in the houses, so they are quite depressed. They're always on the road. So the program basically is get them off the road and start and make them do something good for themselves so that they can make some positive choices in life. I've got 2 girls from Springburn, and they come from a very, 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 very hard and a deprived background. When I met them for the first time, I didn't know what to do with them, I'll be very honest. But now, they've improved so much. They help me pack the bags. They're on the training about 5 to 10 minutes early, so that they can help me out with the setup. They keep on asking me questions about cricket, and we give them life skills workshops. So in my last workshop, it was about sugar. So she was like, I can be a model. I said, why can you be a model? She goes, because I've cut down fizzy drinks. I don't drink Coke. I don't drink any sugar. So I just drink water. So I think that's a huge change. Coming from a girl of 12, that was brilliant.
While it was essential to incorporate something more than cricket in children's development programs, women had to be told cricket was no more an intimidating sport as it is perceived to be. Cricket is such a program designed to cater to the needs of women in particular.
We're trying to think of something that would be fun, short, a little bit of a play on words. If you say it quite fast, it just sounds like cricket.
We're just trying to think of different ways to engage women and girls, because the hardball cricket in full whites is not really appealing to a lot of women and girls. So We don't mind if you're in leggings and a hoodie, you know, you might be a mum, so maybe we need to think about having some childcare at the time, so that when you do cricket, it might be at the same time as your child is doing their cricket training. You can maybe do a women's program at the same time. So it all has to fit in the same time. We also don't want it to be too long.
You can come and join in at this level even if you have never done any fitness, any sport before. This is where you can come and you can get involved in something that is exercise but doesn't almost feel like exercise, and you're doing cricket, but maybe it just really doesn't feel like you're doing cricket sometimes.
The Wee Bash, younger sister of Big Bash Australia, is a softball indoor social tournament for women to further polish their cricket skills and take it to a notch above. Softball cricket has become an instant hit as it is organised in winter, thus ensuring playing opportunities year-round.
And for me, softball formats will actually be really important like that. So like the street cricket that we talked about earlier, where you can just learn the game. Yes, you can learn the game, play the game, and you don't have to worry about getting hurt or about buying equipment. So we just need to simplify it. Having ways to get into cricket at different levels, whether you're a mum, whether you're a 14-year-old boy, whether you're a 6-year-old girl, or whether you're I don't know, maybe a 50-year-old who wants to, you know, play, or make a comeback, or start playing with your children or grandchildren. There needs to be a way into cricket at different levels. So that for me would be the most important thing at making cricket mainstream. So there's lots of different ways and lots of angles, and I think that's how we have to go about it. We can't just have one route in. We have to be diverse again. Yes, flexible and diverse, and we have to listen. We have to listen.
Cricket is spreading its wings above Scotland's sporting map by growing strong at grassroots level. Yet Scotland is to achieve full membership from the International Cricket Council. Neighbouring nation Ireland secured the status in 2017 along with Afghanistan. A full membership not only opens doors to the elite club of test-playing nations, but also brings a host of other benefits to the table. Is it the ultimate goal of Cricket Scotland?
The ultimate goal of the sports governing body is to make cricket mainstream, to start getting cricket into the psyche of the Scottish population in the way that it used to be before football came along. So how do we do that? We need more means, we need more money, we need more people, we need more noise. So as a facilitator, an enabler for that is full membership, because what full membership brings with it is heightened exposure, more money, more noise level.
What we want is to have full membership so that actually it helps us in our aim of trying to get Scotland to understand that cricket is a mainstream sport. At the moment, as they've got two different categories of membership, we think we're viewed a little bit as second-class citizens in terms of cricket. But if we became, full members, if we sat at the top table, if we got the level of cricket exposure on broadcast media, and we got the number of fixtures that full members tend to have, that we think would be a huge step towards getting Scotland recognised as cricket in Scotland recognised as a mainstream sport.
The thing about full membership for me is we need to make sure that everybody understands how it's going to benefit, how we're going to improve club cricket, how we're going to help clubs become stronger, more sustainable, keep producing athletes that potentially can end up playing for Scotland, but if they're not playing for Scotland, can help club cricket continue to thrive in the country, because that's so important.
Full member status used to be judged on a set of subjective measures, really. It was more who you knew and what you knew, and there was a little bit of dark art about it. 2 years ago, the ICC established a set of criteria, which is 26, I think, criteria which one has to achieve to get full membership, and they're written in tablets of stone, and it's in black and white. So at that time we were quite a long way away from achieving it, but in the last 2 years a combination of various things has meant that we are only now 4 short of achieving it. Those 4 being men's team qualifying for another world event, and we have the global qualifiers for the T20 World Cup coming up in UAE in October, which I would be devastated if we didn't qualify. List A status for our premier domestic competition, the Tilney Series. So those 2 I think are relatively straightforward. The next 2, we have to beat one more top 10 country. And the final one, the toughest one I think, is not beating a top 10 nation, because we've proved we can do it. We've beaten 5 full members in the last 2 years, and we've never beaten one before, ever. So these are massive developments, huge improvements, and we're on a great journey. The women qualifying for a World Cup is a tough one. We're ranked 11 in the world, but the difference between 11 and 10 is significant. It's the difference between amateur and professional. We are competing against full-time athletes, basically, and that has proved to be the difficult one. But if we do those 4, we're in.
While Cricket Scotland leaves no stone unturned to meet the requirements of the International Cricket Council, one that remains an enigma is Scottish media's cold approach to cricket. Extent of local media coverage is an evaluation criteria to gain full membership. Although Scotland's historic win over England was widely covered by major media outlets, media has not done justice to the duty of promoting local cricket. Cricket Scotland's communication executive Lizzie Slate's recent tweet on the eve of under-19 men qualifying for the T20 World Cup next year tells the grim story. The noise around England's defeat was short-lived.
I think obviously there was the immediate effect that went round both up here in Scotland and south of the border, and a lot was made of it then. Since then, I don't think there has been enough made of it in the right ways. I also don't think that we've had the opportunity to on the field because of the lack of cricket that we've had to play. That's something out of our control. We can't do anything about that. We have to get on with it.
We beat England on June the 10th. On June the 11th, we were on the front page of every national in Scotland and an awful lot of them in England. On June the 12th, we didn't even warrant one article out of 11 pages of football. And this is June. It's outside the season. There was still 11 pages of football in the back of most newspapers in Scotland. The weird thing is, Scotland are so poor at men's football and have been for so long, it's with disbelief that we still obsess over it.
The popularity of football and other sports has hijacked local media's prime placements. This imbalance in sports reporting unsurprisingly agonizes the cricketing fraternity.
We're now into a position where football is seen as Scotland's sport, and Scotland is seen as a football nation. And that gets all the press coverage. It gets all the coverage in the other media as well. It gets all the visibility. And so you have, in the present situation, where you've got a really, really talented Scotland team in the men and a really up-and-coming team with the women, only just beginning to get press attention and media attention, which really came on the back of that huge win, which was last summer against England.
I can understand Cricket Scotland's frustration. I think they have a part to play in that. They need to do more to encourage the media. They need to build the profile of the players. The team needs to be getting better results if they can. And I think if you have all that thing, then more people will be interested. But the problem at the moment is people don't know enough about the players. They don't know enough about the team. The team isn't playing enough matches. The team isn't winning enough matches. So until that situation improves, the mainstream media, the biggest selling newspapers like the Daily Record and the Sun, will only cover cricket in a very small way. They don't have any moral obligation to do any more because they're a commercial operation, and so they have to do what they think will sell newspapers or will get them clicks on their website. And cricket, for the most part, isn't going to do that for them.
Success sells. Andy Murray has shown that success sells. In Scotland, before he came along, Tim Henman in England was looked on as, okay, he's English, he plays tennis. Andy came along, everybody's interested in tennis all of a sudden. Same can happen with cricket. You just need one or two. You do need a successful team as well. But hey, 1 or 2 successful players can sometimes carry a team. Maradona at football in Argentina, it can happen. So let's dream big, and hopefully the grassroots will bring forward a player who one day will become good enough to go on and be a figurehead for Scottish cricket.
Scotland's superstars are already in the reckoning, making waves in global cricket. Kyle Kitzer, the men's captain, who was awarded MBE recently, Callum McLeod, George Munsey, Sufyan Sharif are hot buys at glamorous T20 cricket leagues around the world. Sarah Bryce in 2018, Abtaha Maksud, Hannah Rainey and Becky Glenn in 2019 were selected for the ICC's Women's Global Development Team.
For me as a coach, how can we potentially raise the profile of all these players? How can we make them play better so that they can become household names? How do we raise the profile of Scottish cricket so that a young child walks into a store and wants to buy a cricket shirt because he wants to play for Scotland? You know, a young child goes from school and joins a cricket club because he wants to play cricket. And it's not only about playing for Scotland, you know, not everyone is going to play for Scotland. It's about keeping people involved in the game of cricket. It's about umpires, scorers, groundsmen, you know.
It is in Scotland's culture. It is just buried in Scotland's psyche, I think you could say, if that's maybe making it sound very, very deep. Because that tradition is there. And it's just a question of kind of tapping into it once again, I would say.
There is more to Scotland and cricket than we believe. A strong and deep-rooted community thrives here that echoes the 10cc hit song. We don't like cricket, we love it. On 10 June 2018, they lived the dream life. But once cricket regains its full glory, they will start living the effing dream, ready to be in company of the best in the league.
It's performance and money. Yeah. Performance, weather and money, probably as well.